different manufacturers. Generally, they will earlier they will support only 2.4G. For example, here your Raspberry Pi 3. Raspberry Pi 3 will support only 2.4 gigahertz only. It will not support 5G. Whereas your Raspberry Pi 4, the new Raspberry Pi, so that will support both 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi technology and as well as 5 gigahertz wireless technology. So Wi-Fi technology. These two technologies will be supported by the your new Raspberry Pi. Okay. So next one is Bluetooth. So as you know that this is a very popular and everyone is going to be used in at your generally at your homes will use every time here. So here in the Bluetooth generally we are having earlier Bluetooths are generally called as classic Bluetooths. Earlier generally these Bluetooths are generally called as a classic Bluetooths, and nowadays we are getting all low energy Bluetooth. We can call it as BLE. BLE devices. BLE devices nothing but these are some advanced Bluetooth devices. We can call it as low energy Bluetooth. Bluetooth low energy. Okay, BLE devices. So nowadays all the mobiles are coming with BLE only. Only olden days, for example, just if you go back to 3 to 4 years back, there you have all classic Bluetooth only. Sorry, 4 to 5 years back, you have all classic Bluetooths only. Whatever the smartphones that we have 5 to 6 years back, we have all classic Bluetooth only. Now we are every Bluetooth and every device is coming with a Bluetooth low energy. That is a high speed Bluetooth. So here Bluetooth 4.2. Actually, there are two different versions are there. Generally, classic Bluetooth is starting in the starting. The Bluetooth is started with a version called 1.0, and slowly it was introduced to Bluetooth 2.0, and also there is a Bluetooth 2.2. So generally, up to Bluetooth 2.2, we all these three we are calling it as a classic Bluetooths only. These are all classic Bluetooths. And after this 2.2, Bluetooths are evaluated into Bluetooth 3.0. Okay, and also we have Bluetooth 4.0, and recently we got Bluetooth 4.2, and nowadays all the smartphones are coming. If you buy Bluetooth recently, sorry, if you buy the smartphones recently, we are getting Bluetooth 5.0 also. So what the difference here is nothing but they are increasing the data rate as soon as they are increasing the Bluetooth versions. So they are as soon as they are developing the Bluetooth versions, they are increasing the data rate. That is the one thing, and they are increasing the distance of the wireless technology. So like earlier Bluetooth will allowed only for 1 meter. So you have seen that earlier we can't wear our headphones near at a distance, but nowadays our mobile is at somewhere and we can talk in any other place. Almost we can talk up to 10 meters distance. We can go and we can talk with Bluetooth. So like that distance increased, and as well as along with the distance data rate increases. That is speed of the communication. So that is also increased slowly. Okay. Generally, if you take any Bluetooth, they are divided into three classes: class 1, class 2, and class 3. So based on what it will, depending on operating range, and as well as what is the power consumption of the devices. Depending on the power consumption and the operating range, they are divided into class 1, class 2, and class 3. And whenever you go to any market, you no need to ask like class 1 Bluetooth, class 2 Bluetooth. You no need to ask like that, because Bluetooth generally available with the version, not with the class. For example, if you go to the market, you have to ask about the I want Bluetooth 5.0. So then he will give a different 5.0 chip for you. I want Bluetooth 4.2. He will give a 4.2 chip for you. So like that, we can ask the vendor with the version only, not with the class. This class is we have to internally decide that. For example, if your 5.0 is will comes under the class 1. This device 5.0 will comes under the class 1, and whereas these 1.0, 2.2, these are all comes under the class 3 Bluetooths. These are all comes under the class 3 Bluetooth, and this 3.0 and 4.0 will comes under the class 2 Bluetooth. So something like that, depending on the range of the sensor will define divide the Bluetooth into class 1, class 2 and class 3. And always remember that, sorry,
नहीं यार आ रही है.
is there any disturbance? Is it okay now?
Yes, sir. It is okay now.
Okay, right. So
Thank you.
okay, so if you have any doubts, you can raise in between also. That is not a problem. But anyhow, as soon as you are increasing the class, sorry, as soon as you are going for the class 1 or something like that, the power consumption increases. For example, this power consumption is very, very important in the IoT applications, because in IoT we are going to use very small sensors. So for that particular small sensors, we are going to deploy in a outside real-time world where we are not getting any power adapter or we are not getting any other things. We should have to purely depending on the battery power. So in such case, if you go for the class 1 things, then that becomes a problem for us. So then what we have, depending on the range, for example, if you want to go for 100 meters, then definitely you have to choose the class 1, and according to that you have to choose your power source. Okay, if it is not need like that, if I want a short distance communication, in that case, so I don't want to go for the 5.0 class 1, 5.0 class 3 I will buy, and I will go for this one, so that it will consume very less power over here. Something like that. Power also, whenever power also matters, we should have to choose the Bluetooth chip in such a way that it would satisfy distance as well as power. So we have to compromise over here. Okay. The next technology here is sorry, these are the different Bluetooth chips over here. So if you want here, actually this is the Bluetooth architecture. So in a complete Bluetooth, we can connect up to 7 devices over here. Actually, we can connect up to 7 devices. Here, these are some examples they have given. How we can connect the devices to the Bluetooth, how we can connect the laptop, mobile, and all these home appliances to Bluetooth, and how we can connect the remotes, and some temperature, some weather monitoring, weather monitoring device, some heart information device, something like that. This is keychain, keyboard, mouse. So whatever it is, different things will be connected with the Bluetooth. And these are the 3 Bluetooths which are starting from classic and Bluetooth 4.2, and this is Bluetooth 5.0. So these are the chips which are available in the market, especially for the Arduino. And why I'm mentioning is that, especially for Arduino, these are the things which are available in the market. So if anyone wants to work on the Bluetooth technology, they can buy these depending on your situation. For example, you want to go for a little higher distance, you can go for the 5.0. And this is the most commonly used one. This 4.0 is the most commonly used one. So if you want, you can go through this Bluetooth 4.0 also. Okay. So let me go for the next one. Here it is Zigbee. So we have seen that Wi-Fi, it is a very higher data rate. But what happened here, power consumption of Wi-Fi is very high. We can't use the Wi-Fi in outside applications. Whenever you want to go for any outside applications, if you want to use the Wi-Fi, what happened here, it will consume more power. Whenever there is adapter facility, continuous power facility is available, then only we can use the Wi-Fi technology outside. But what is the advantage of Wi-Fi is it's flexibility. So it's very easy to connect. So people need not to do writing any program to receive the information or something like that. That is very easily connected. So that's why the people prefer Wi-Fi. But what happened here, Wi-Fi is consume more power over here. So whenever coming to the real-time applications, we can't depend on the Wi-Fi. So in such situations, we can use this particular Bluetooth or Zigbee. So Zigbee is also one of the competitor for the Bluetooth. So it is also made based on the same protocol, like IEEE protocol 802.15.4. So what is the IEEE protocol for Bluetooth? It is 802.15.1. For Bluetooth, it is 802.15.1, and for Zigbee, it is 802.15.4. And again, it is all these are going to be work on the same frequency, like 2.4 gigahertz. This is the we can call it as ISM band. It is okay. So all the Bluetooth, Zigbee, and all these things will works on the 2.4 gigahertz frequency. Okay. So again, it is give the distance up to 10 to 100 meters. Okay, and it is low power consumption. This is very, very important. So why the people prefer Zigbee over Bluetooth in IoT cases? Generally in home appliances, the people will not depend much on the Zigbee, but in IoT applications like IoT home applications, whenever the home appliances which are related to IoT, most of the people will prefer Zigbee. Why? Because Zigbee is a less power consumption compared to the Bluetooth. Zigbee will have less power consumption compared to the Bluetooth. So because of that only, the people in whenever they are working in a IoT for any devices to transmit the information locally, so they will use the Zigbee technology over here. And there is one more advantage of Zigbee technology is mesh network. So generally it is I think this is applications. So it is generally used for mesh network. Mesh network, I think you know that. For example, here we have a node 1, node 2, node 3, and node 4. So whenever I want to send the information from here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here, here to somewhere. So here to here, or here to here, something like that. Whenever you want to communicate the nodes, transmitter and receiver, if you want to. So now what happened here? This node becomes as a transmitter. It transmits the information from here, and as well as it receives the information from the other node. So something like that. Every node in a Zigbee will act like a transmitter and as well as receiver. So like that, there is a good mesh technology available in the Zigbee. So that is the because of that only the people still preferring that this particular Zigbee. But nowadays, Bluetooth 4.2 and as well as Bluetooth 5.0 also introducing mesh network. Earlier, classic Bluetooth doesn't have any mesh network. It is a point-to-point network only earlier. Before 4 to 5 years, in the Bluetooth also there is no mesh network. Only it is a point-to-point network earlier. But now, Bluetooth is also providing all the mesh networks and all. But still, the power consumption of the Bluetooth is a little higher than the power consumption of the Zigbee devices. Okay, so that's why the people will prefer Zigbee over the Bluetooth whenever they will go for the IoT applications. These are the different applications where see you can see all building automations IoT here, personal healthcare IoT here, industrial control again IoT here. So like that, any IoT applications in a different areas will use the people will prefer the Zigbee, and also this is very reliable. The information which is sending with the Zigbee is very, very reliable. It will not give any false information. Means like in a Bluetooth there is sometimes we may miss the packets, but in Zigbee 99% will not miss the packets. So there is a very reliable communication will be happen with the Zigbee. Okay, so this is how Zigbee protocol will work. So this is generally red node. This is the coordinator. Main node. This is the main node which will control all the other nodes. So this is called coordinator. And there are something called routers. So routers will do transmitting as well as receiving. See, router will receive the information from the coordinator as well as it will send the information to the other devices. It will send the information to the other devices. So all the routers will act like a transceivers. We can call it as transceivers. It will act like a transmitter as well as receiver. And whereas all the end devices, these are the end devices. This doesn't have any other transmission. This is going to be end over here itself. For example, this is sending information here means the information is end here itself. It will not send any other information. So it always receives the information. Okay. So a node which always receives the information is called as end node. So something like that. There is some terminology. We have to make the Zigbee these things as a either coordinator or either router. So of course this is also called as a router, but this doesn't have the transmitting capability. Okay, so something like that. We can make everything in this way. This is the Zigbee protocol. The next one is a LoRa. So if you observe that all the three technologies, what is the range of Wi-Fi? Range of Wi-Fi is almost very less. It's not that much even for like Bluetooth and as well as like Zigbee. Compared to these two, Wi-Fi technology, of course, Wi-Fi technology is very high speed and it will support higher data rates. The speed is much, but the distance it supports is very less. It's not that much high compared to the Bluetooth and Zigbee. So in a Bluetooth and Zigbee, they are competing now. Generally, earlier Zigbee provides 10 meters distance, whereas Bluetooth provides only 1 meter distance. But nowadays, Bluetooth 5.0 is completely competing with this particular Zigbee. Now Bluetooth 5.0 is giving 100 meters, and also Zigbee is also giving 100 meters distance. It is supporting the almost approximately 100 meters of distance will be supported by the both Bluetooth and Zigbee. And here conditions apply. It will be applicable only in the open area. The open area means it should be outside. If it is within the building, it may not use these 100 meters because there are so many walls, so many obstructions are there in the indoor environments. There are so many abstractions. So because of that, it may not give 100 meters distance, but definitely it will give some good distance. I never practiced whether how much distance it is giving, but I can say that definitely it is not 100 meters. It is less than the open area distance. This is the 100 meters is the open area distance. Whenever you install your Bluetooth or Zigbee in the open area, they will support up to 100 meters. Of course, coming to the practical, it will not support 100 meters. It may support up to 50 meters in practical, 50 to 75 meters in practical. It's not support complete 100 meters. Okay. Okay, next coming to this next technology is LoRa. This supports almost 1 to 10 kilometers of distance. It support 1 to 10 kilometers of distance, 1 kilometer to almost 10 kilometers. This LoRa device will support communication of the information. Whatever the data we want to communicate from one node to other node, it will almost support from 1 kilometer to 10 kilometers. That is one of the best advantage of the LoRa technology. And that's why I always remember that LoRa's are not used in indoor applications. Why? Because whenever it is giving a long range application, why we have to use for a short range? Because it is a little bit costlier compared to the Bluetooth and the Zigbee. The cost of the LoRa is a little bit higher. Then why we have to use for our indoor applications? For a small range application, we should not use this LoRa. Why? Because cost wise it's not apt. But of course, if you are really I want to use LoRa only, means you can use. That's not a problem. There is no restrictions that whether you want to use it for long distance or short distance, but LoRa is meant for long distance. So as soon as you are sending this information to the devices, we are going to have LoRa gateways. You may what is the difference between gateway and this? So gateway is the one of the thing which will connect your information to the internet. So gateway is one of the thing which will connect your information to the internet. So up to here, this LoRa devices, Bluetooth devices, and these are all local transmission only. They are not giving any global transmission. Like they are not sending the information to the cloud. They are sending the information only to the controller from the remote location. From other place to controller it will send, but it will not sending the information to the cloud. So in such case, whenever we have this, we have to use some gateway. So LoRa is providing its own gateways along with the LoRa chips, LoRa transmitter and receiver. It is also providing the LoRa gateways. So these LoRa gateways are used to connect your local information to the cloud. So that is the way. The best advantage of this LoRa technology is itself 1 kilometer to 10 kilometers. So whenever you want to uh, uh, do any applications in the remote locations, for example, in the remote locations, will not get any signal, any GSM signal will not get, and any Wi-Fi signal will not get. So something in such cases, for example, in remote areas like hill areas, otherwise some other villages, something like that. In that particular case, by using these LoRa chips, we can transmit the information from here to some other 1 kilometer distance where all the Wi-Fi, GSM. So whatever we want, we will get everything here. But here will not get anything. So in this case, we'll install a LoRa here. We'll install a LoRa here, and using this LoRa, we'll send the information to the place where all the Wi-Fi and GSM everything is available. So something like that will make it this non remote areas which are where nothing is available, and we'll send this information here to area where everything is available. So something like that, using LoRa technology will make it possible. Most of the remote locations are connected to the devices. So this is the architecture. You have seen that this is the gateway, LoRa gateways, and these are all LoRa enabled devices. These are all LoRa enabled. For example, this is fire detection is there. For example, if you went to a forest, and in the forest you can go and insert your fire detection device in the forest, and because in the forest we doesn't have any Wi-Fi technology or otherwise GSM and all. So that what happen here will create 2 or 3 LoRa devices in the forest, and from there that information will be transmitted to the gateway. So once it is transmitted to the gateway from here, by using the 3G technology, 4G, 5G, or Ethernet or GSM, so whatever the technology you want to use, you can use that technology and you can send the information to the cloud. So that is the generally basic use of the LoRa. So whenever you want to work any remote locations, you can use this LoRa for long distance communication. Okay, the last one, I don't want to bore you much. So here the last one here, it is a Sigfox. And after this, I will take a few questions and then I will get back to the practicals. So Sigfox is almost similar to your LoRa only, but here this Sigfox is going to be depends on the GSM technology. Sigfox is going to be depends on all the antennas, sorry, all the towers. It will depends on all the towers. So each, you can ask what is the difference between GSM and then Sigfox. Again, Sigfox is having its own towers. These are not that much height, where our GSM towers are too big, whereas our these Sigfox towers are not that much big, but this will support up to, again, 1 to 10 kilometers distance will be supported by this particular Sigfox GSM technology. So of course, the Sigfox is not, I think nowadays in the last 6 months to 1 year, the people are using the Sigfox in India also. But earlier, this technology was not available in the India. But nowadays, the people are working slowly started working with the Sigfox. What is the difference between here LoRa and Sigfox is it is completely depends on the antennas. It is a GSM based. We can call it as, see here, it is networks such as GSM. It's not exactly GSM, but it will use all cellular networks. Same like these are all cellular networks. So all these Sigfox devices will depends on this cellular networks. So that is the only difference between LoRa and Sigfox. Otherwise, both are competitors. LoRa is competitor of Sigfox and Sigfox is a competitor of LoRa. Both are competing in the distance. Okay, so that is right. So these are the different wireless technologies that we can work with. So let me take just 2 minutes for a question. So if you have any questions, let me take. If I know the answer, I will answer it. Otherwise, we'll hold the question and we'll answer tomorrow. Okay. So let me stop this sharing here. Okay. What is MAC address? I think every device is having some unique address, like even Raspberry Pis and your system. Every device will have some unique address, so that is called MAC address. The difference between the MAC address and IP address. MAC address is permanent, then we can't change the MAC address. But whereas IP address is not like that. Depending on the network will assign a different IP address for the different devices. Okay, relation between the class and version. Yeah, that's what I'm saying here. If you want to choose your distance, so for example, if you want to work with a distance, long distance, then we have to go for the class 1 devices. Whereas if you want to go with a short distance, you have to go for the class 3 devices. Okay. Otherwise, nothing difference is there. Version according to the versions, because class 1, here for example, I will tell one example here. For example, Bluetooth 1.0, Bluetooth 2.0 is there. Classic Bluetooth is there. Classic Bluetooth will not support class 1. Why? Because it doesn't support 100 meters. Classic Bluetooth will support only 1 meter. So it will always comes under class 3 only. But whereas your Bluetooth 4.2, it will support both class 1 and class 2 and class 3. Class 2 and class 3. Bluetooth 4.0. Depending on your choice, whether you want to work with a low distance, then you have to choose the class 3 of Bluetooth 4.0. And whether you want to work with a high distance, then you can go for the class 2 of Bluetooth 4.0. So something like that. There is a relation between the version and the class. Why Zigbee is not popular in case of mobile communication, sir? Exactly. I said you that complexity. So whenever installation complexity is very high in the Zigbee, whereas coming to the Bluetooth, you can just buy a Bluetooth device and you can just insert into a laptop USB port. Your Bluetooth will automatically take all the protocols and all, and it will connect it. It will connect very easily. But whereas Zigbee, not like that. We have to do some configuration inside the Zigbee devices. So that because of that configuration complexes, it is not famous in the home appliances, but in all the other appliances it is famous. Okay, how much is the range of water surface, say seashore? That's what I'm saying, that LoRa is generally used on the water surfaces. And for example, one of Shiva Star's colleague, they worked on one water quality system. What they did here is they want to transmit the information from one end of the lake to other end of the lake. They want to test the lake water. So then what happened here, in one end they're testing the lake water, and other end of the lake, almost that lake is having a 1 kilometer of wide. Almost it is having 1 kilometer of wide. Of course they are used some industrial LoRa device that will support up to 10 kilometers. That lake wide is almost 1 kilometer. So they are taking the information of one end of the lake and they are transferring that information to the other end of the lake. So here it is clearly supporting. That means on the water surface also the LoRa will work. And next, what is how much range of the water? Next, NFC. Oh, sorry. Actually, it is also one of the NFC. Near field communication is also nowadays most of the people are using NFC also for near field communication. Like it's only in centimeters, not even more than that. It is just 5 to 10 centimeters. It's not more than that. So like that, they will use the for debit cards and for RFID cards. They will use the near field communication, NFC. Okay. Next, any possibility to reduce the Bluetooth range according to application requirements? That's what I said. You have to choose your chip to depending on your range. You have to choose the chip because chips are available in different ranges. So depending on that, you can choose your range. See, nothing is harm you. For example, if you buy a high range Bluetooth, nothing wrong that you can use it for the low range. It will work. It will work fine. And but in the future, if you want to, for example, if you buy a low range and if you want to implement a high range, then that is not possible. But always go for the latest Bluetooth devices and work on that. That will be very useful for us. What is the full form of Mac? I'm sorry, I didn't remember that. What's the full form of Mac? Medium access control address. I don't know. Or maybe I did exactly. I don't know. If anyone knows, please you can answer it. Okay. And what are the battery requirements for LoRa and approximate cost? Again, battery requirement for LoRa. Generally, LoRa will comes with adapters. But battery requirements, LoRa is very low power consumption. It is not going to be high power consumption. The batteries will generally 1500 rupees to 3000 rupees. The batteries will be cost more. In most of the cases, whenever you want to work with the real time cases, the battery will be having a cost of 1500 to 2000 rupees. So depending on your how much. For example, if you want to use the device for 3 years, if you want to use the device for 5 years, so depending on that, you have to buy your battery. So generally, the best batteries will support 3 to 5 years for a low applications, like not like 1 or 2 sensors. If you connect only 1 or 2 sensors for your LoRa, then that will support your.
Sir, unable to see the screen, sir.
Sorry, I'm not able to.
It is a question answer session. So I think that's why screen is not sharing. Thank you.
Okay. They're asking about the screen sharing. Oh, I'm just giving answers for all the charts. Okay, if anyone is not aware of that, I'm just giving answers for all the chart questions. Okay. So distance covered by Wi-Fi. I think that depends on where you install. For example, here within the walls, you can get only 1 or 2 rooms only maximum. Within the one building, you can get the Wi-Fi. But as soon as your distance increases, the strength of the Wi-Fi decreases. Okay. And which wireless technology is preferred for underwater network? I'm sorry, I don't have idea about the underwater network. Let me verify and come back. Okay. Next, what is gateway? Gateway is nothing but it's a mediator which will which will receive the information from the sensors, and which will the same information that will send to the cloud. So like it is like a Wi-Fi only. It's like a Wi-Fi device, Wi-Fi gateway. So same like that. The different manufacturers are creating different gateways. For example, LoRa is creating their own LoRa gateway. So generally, what is the usage of gateway is to connect your devices from non-local to global. So like internet. So there the gateway will comes into picture. Okay. Screen not shown in hill areas. There are obstacles. LoRa will be able to work there? Yeah, that's what that should be depends on LoRa. Will in hill areas LoRa will work depending on where you install the LoRa. So depending on which place you install the LoRa, depending on that you have to check the range, and according to that you have to connect multiple LoRas. It's not like single LoRa you can get the information from all the hills. It's not like that. You have to connect multiple LoRas, and you have to make a network of LoRas, and using from networks you will get the information into your main place, whatever the place where all are available. Right. Please share screen. We're not able to see you via medium access control. Yeah, so screen share not media access control. Yeah, that's how can LoRa connect with mobile phones? I think so. I didn't work on the LoRa connected to mobile phones, because if your mobile phone is having LoRa receiver, we can connect LoRa transmitter to your receiver. But generally, LoRa's will connect it to LoRa only. We can able to connect LoRa transmitter, and it should be LoRa receiver. But it should it will not be like LoRa to Bluetooth, LoRa to Zigbee. Will not connect like that. Always transmitter is LoRa means definitely we have a LoRa receiver. Then only we can able to communicate. Right. So, is there any other questions other than this? I think I answered all the questions almost. I will come back to that. Underwater is one question that I didn't answer. So I will verify and I will come back about that. Devices Zigbee number. Oh, I think I shown the device now. Yesterday I shown a few devices for you. Like if you want, I can show that. Actually, generally Zigbee devices by Zigbee number 829. I'm asking how many. No, I didn't get your question. How many Zigbee devices? Means in hill area? Is that hill area? Otherwise, you are asking about what are the maximum number of Zigbee devices that can be connected. Okay, right. Using Zigbee, we can connect up to 20 to 30 devices. We can connect 20 to 30, and in that one device always should be coordinator, and some of the devices will be receiver and transmitter, like we can call it as router devices, and other will be end devices. Like that, almost 20 to 30 devices we can connect in a network for Zigbee. Okay, right. I think these are answered all your questions. Okay, so let me go back to the next session. Okay, let us start the things quickly. So let me share the screen again. Okay, right. So before going to the practical yesterday, I think you people remember that we install VNC viewer and we are logged in remotely. Okay, so I think now the devices are in off state. I think you may not able to log now. But what my intention is that first I will tell individually line by line. I will type the codes and I will explain all the things. Once you are familiar with the coding, accessing, and everything, then we'll switch on the devices so that you can log in and you can work out. And simultaneously working is not possible because here I'm typing in a different flow, and you people will typing in a different flow. So that may not match, and that will disturb the entire demo. So because of that, presently I'm switched off all the devices. Only one device is switched on. I will connect to that and I will work on that, and I will show all the demos one after other. Okay. So right, let me start the demos. Right. Yeah. So this is my first demo. That is why it is called tutorial 2. What is your tutorial 1? Tutorial 1 is connecting how to connect the Raspberry Pi to remote location, like a VNC server, and what are the settings to do. So those are the tutorial 1. So that yesterday we have seen that. And the tutorial 2 is reading temperature and humidity. So if you are able to observe this particular slide over here, this is your DHT11 sensor. So what is this sensor will do? This sensor will able to give the values of temperature and humidity of a room. So wherever the sensor is installed, that particular place temperature and what is the place humidity. So that we can able to read by these particular sensors. So here I'm using this one. This is the sensor that I'm using on the board, and this particular sensor will have 3 pins. So one is ground, second pin is data, and third pin is VCC. So yesterday we spoke about that. Any sensor, if you take any sensor, two pins are common. One is VCC and other is ground. So here, depending on the what is the voltage of the sensor. For example, this is a 5-volt sensor. This humidity and temperature and humidity sensor is supports up to 3 to 5 volts. Means you can connect the 3 volts power supply or 5 volts power supply. So for both the power supplies, it will work. Okay. So something like that, you have to know about the sensor and you have to read the data sheet before knowing about the sensor. So here I'm connecting this to the Raspberry Pi in the picture. If you see the picture here, this is the kit what we have seen yesterday. Of course, yesterday the kit is in red color. Now it is in a green color. Why? Because yesterday kit is red color. That is the newest version. Whereas I'm using a oldest this 1.0 version, and that is a new version. So the only color difference. Otherwise, everything is same. So here I'm connecting the DHT11 to the. This is the DHT11 and this is the Raspberry Pi connector. So this is internally connected to Raspberry Pi pins. Here we have the Raspberry Pi pins. So these Raspberry Pi pins internally it is connected. Okay. So this is the connection from here to here. I'm using a 4-pin connector over here. So here to here we can connect. And these are the 3 pins available for the DHT11. So one is VCC, one is ground, and one is data. So VCC is always connected to 5 volts here. VCC, we are connecting VCC to 5 volts. And we are connecting ground to ground of the Raspberry Pi. So are you remember what is the pin diagram of Raspberry Pi? No, I think. Let me show the pin diagram first because yesterday we discussed about that. So this is the pin diagram of Raspberry Pi. So where is the 5 volts available? Here, this is the 5 volts. Pin number 2 is 5 volts. Pin number 4 is 5 volts. So that VCC should be connected to either pin number 2 or pin number 4. Otherwise, we can connect to pin number 1 also. Pin number 1 is also 3.3 power. So we can connect to 3.3 or 5 volts. Why? Because this sensor will support both.
Excuse me, sir. Can you
Yes.
please zoom your screen? It's very much invisible.
Okay, it is very small. Okay. So now it's okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So here, so this pin diagram. Whenever something is uncomfortable, please inform me so that I can modify here. Okay. So this is a pin number 2. Either we can connect the VCC here, pin number 2, or pin number 4. Both are 5 volts pins, and pin number 1 is a 3.3 volts pin. So whether you want to connect 3.3 or 5 volts, nothing is issue because that sensor will support both 3.3 and 5 volts. And there are so many ground pins are there. Here, pin number 6, all black color pins are ground pins only. Pin number 6, pin number 9, pin number 14, pin number 20, 25, 30, 34. These are all ground pins only. You can connect any of the ground pin from the sensor. From the ground pin of the sensor can be connected to any of the ground pin of your Raspberry Pi. And similarly, this data pin of your sensor, the middle pin of the sensor is data pin. That data pin is connected to GPIO 4 here. The data pin is connected to GPIO 4 here. Okay, so connection is clear. So let me move back to the screen. So here you can see this data pin is connected to GPIO 4 of your Raspberry Pi 3. So internally, this connection internally connects this sensor to the pin number 4. You can ask one question, sir, every time we have to connect to pin number 4? No need of connecting every time to the pin number 4, but here it is a fixed connection on the board. It is a fixed connection. That's why I'm connecting like that. But whenever you are working with individual Raspberry Pi, you can connect anywhere. Okay, so that is one. And next one is to work with this particular DHT11. What is DHT here? Digital humidity and temperature. Okay, what is DHT here is digital humidity and temperature. To work with the DHT sensor, we have to install one library in the Python. In the Raspberry Pi, we have to install one library. So that library is named as adafruit_txt. So how to install the library, I will tell you. Once I log into the Raspberry Pi, I will tell you how to install the library. So simple command, only we have to type this command sudo pip install adafruit_txt. So that is the only simple command to install the library over here. Okay. Let us see individual connection, like whenever if you use the Raspberry Pi, so this is the connection. If you want to use only individual Raspberry Pi instead of our kit, I'm not forcing you to use the kit only. So here, whenever you want to connect individual Raspberry Pi, these are the connections. Okay, 3.3 ground, 6th pin is ground, and this is your 7th pin, nothing but GPIO 4. This is your GPIO 4. See, data pin. This is your data pin. Data pin is connected to GPIO 4. I hope connections are clear. So let me move back to the programming part. Let me log into the Raspberry Pi. So this is my Raspberry Pi. Yesterday I showed you that how to log in and all these things. Okay, this is I logged in remotely. Frankly speaking, this device is not available with me also. It is available some other place. Of course, it is little near to me only, but not exactly side by me. Okay, so this is available little near. Okay, so let me write the first program. So before going to write the first program, yesterday we said that we have to do some settings. So let me discuss about the settings first, and then I will write the program. Is it clear? Let me discuss about the few settings, and then we'll discuss about the program. So what are the settings first? So the first setting here is we have to connect the Wi-Fi. So by clicking this, see, these are the one symbol, it is available over here. So by clicking on this, it will display all your Wi-Fi devices, all your routers, like mobile hotspots or routers. So whatever the Wi-Fi available around your Raspberry Pi. So it will all recognize all the Wi-Fi devices, which you can just click on your Wi-Fi device, and you just click on your device and just give your password. So then automatically your Raspberry Pi is now connected to your home Wi-Fi. For example, generally in the everyone they will have some home router, so they will maintain some Wi-Fi connections in these days. Okay, so if you are unfortunately, if you don't have the Wi-Fi connection also, you can just switch on your mobile hotspot. You can just switch on your mobile hotspot, and also your mobile hotspot also will able to show here. It will, for example, this is your mobile hotspot only. So this will, by clicking on this, it will ask for the mobile password. So by clicking giving your mobile hotspot username and password, you can simply connect to the mobile hotspot. So like that also, our Raspberry Pi is ready for connecting to the internet. So now my Raspberry Pi is connected to my office router. So this is my office router. So using this office router only, I'm connecting to the internet. So now everything is connected to internet through my office router only. Even Raspberry Pi is also connected to office router. Okay. Now that is the first setting, connecting your Raspberry Pi to the internet connection. And the second settings will go for the menu symbol here. We have a menu symbol over here. Of course, all these settings are mentioned in the yesterday's PPT, but I'm discussing now. Okay. So this is settings. Will go for the preferences. Just click on the menu symbol and go to the preferences. And there is some preferences called Raspberry Pi configuration. There is some preferences. There is an option called Raspberry Pi configuration. So by clicking on the Raspberry Pi configuration, here you can see this. There is some host name, group 1. So this is the host name that I'm going to generally visible whenever we connect our Raspberry Pi in a network. Whenever we connect our Raspberry Pi in a network, for example, I have 4 Raspberry Pis. If you, generally the default host name is Raspberry Pi. For all the Raspberries, without changing this host name, it will be looks like looks like a Raspberry Pi only. But if you want to recognize your Raspberry Pi uniquely, you have to change your host name here. Okay, you have to change your host name here. So this is the name of your Raspberry Pi. What is the use of this is, whenever multiple Raspberry Pis are connected to the single network, how do you identify your Raspberry Pi uniquely? Means with host name only. Okay, so that is one setting that you have to do. Okay, remaining all are we need not to go for that. If you want to change the password for the Raspberry Pi, you can just click on the change password and you can write a new password over here. Okay, you can write your, so that what happened here, your Raspberry Pi is restricted to others, so that only you can able to log into your Raspberry Pi. Okay, that is one. And the second one is we can boot to the desktop. So generally here desktop mode means here we are seeing all the folders, icons, all this we are seeing. This is called desktop mode. If you go for the CLI, then that is not desktop mode. You will not see any of these GUI. You are able to get only command mode. So everything you have to work with the commands, Linux commands. Everything you have to work with the Linux commands. If you boot to the CLI mode, what is CLI here is command line interface. What is CLI here is command line interface. So generally whenever you goes to the real time, in the real time we don't have the monitors and all, so we don't want to connect like actually generally in the initial stage we'll work with the GUI mode. But whenever you are matured, whenever you are knows very well about the Raspberry Pi, then you should not work with the desktop mode. We have to make a habituate to work with the CLI mode. But that should be little experience. You should have little experience with the Raspberry Pi. Then only we can able to work with the CLI mode. Okay, so that is, I think you are able to see the CLI mode over here. That is a one setting. And second one here, interfaces. We have to enable few interfaces over here. So what are the interfaces here? Camera we can enable. SSH. SSH is again a remote login. Whenever you want to go for any remote login, we can enable the SSH. See, yesterday I told you that we have to enable the VNC to now it is, see, my device is enabled with VNC. That's why I'm able to log in to my device. Otherwise, if I disable this VNC, I'm not able to log in. Even though if you have installed all the things also, if you are not enable your VNC, you are not able to log into Raspberry Pi. And similarly, if you want to connect I2C sensors, SPI sensors, you have to enable all these things. Without enabling these things, so these are the three protocols: SPI protocol, I2C protocol, serial port is nothing but UART protocol. So we have to enable all these protocols. Otherwise, we are not able to connect any I2C sensors, SPI sensors, UART sensors. We are not able to connect. And we have to enable the remote GPIO. So that what happened here, all the GPIO pins will be able to connect remotely. So if you want to control your Raspberry Pi remotely, we can control by enabling your remote GPIO enabled. Okay, so these are the few settings. Okay, so what are the three settings? I will just repeat. First setting is you have to set your Wi-Fi. Okay, second setting is you have to change your host name here. Second setting is you have to change your host name. And third setting is you have to enable all the things. So these are the three main settings. Whenever you work with any Raspberry Pi, don't forget to do these changes before working. Okay, let's finish the settings. Let me open and let me write the first program. What is our program here? We are reading the temperature and humidity. So let's write. So to write the program, I have to open the editor, Python editor. So for that, how I can open the Python editor? Go for menu, programming. So I want to do programming now. So go for programming. See, I'm just a little bit comfort with Geany, G-E-A-N-Y, Geany. Geany is the editor name. So you can use any other editor like Python 3 editor, you can use Thorny editor. So like that, we have different Python editors available in the Raspberry Pi. So whichever is comfortable, you can use that editor. This is just an editor, means this is the place where we'll write the program. Okay, I'm a little bit comfortable with the Geany. So let's open the Geany editor. Okay, now editor is opened. Let me close all these things. These are all earlier programs. Okay, so let me write first program, first file, new. Okay, so file new. So let me write the program. So earlier I said to work with this particular DHT11 sensor, that is nothing but humidity and temperature sensor, we need to install a library. But to work with this particular sensor, we need to install a library. So let's install the library first before writing the program, because without installing the library, we are not able to work over here. So let's install the library. So for that, for installing the library, we have to click on this black screen. This is called terminal window. See, you are able to see this terminal over there. Okay, so this is called terminal window. So just click on the terminal window, and here let me increase the font. Otherwise, again, I will get a complaint. Okay, edit, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, take. I think Control ++ is not working. That's why I'm doing this many times. Okay, right. I think at least you are able to see a little bit. Sudo space pip3 space install space adafruit underscore dht. Adafruit underscore dht. So this is the command to install your library into the Raspberry Pi. So what is that library? This is a library which is related to DHT sensor only. Okay, so let's enter. So by entering this, you are able to download the library over here. Of course, it is saying that requirement already satisfied because I already installed library in my Raspberry Pi. So because of that, it is showing that requirement already satisfied. For the first time, it will download the file and it will install the file in your Raspberry Pi. Okay, this is the way how we can install the library. So let's minimize it. Let's write the program. So let's import that library here. So what is the library that we installed just before? Let me import that library. What is that library? Import adafruit underscore dht. I want to give one shortcut name as dht. So what is this as dht? I'm giving a alias name for your package. Every time if I want to access some parameters in the package, I don't want to access every time. I don't want to write adafruit underscore dht. It's a long name. So I want to just make it as a short name by giving a keyword called as. I think before going to this, let's save the program. Just save the program. Just click on the save here, and let's write dht11.py. Okay, just write dht11.py and select your desktop here. I want to select the save program on the desktop. So I'm just selecting desktop here. I think you are able to see. I want to save the program on the desktop. So I'm selecting the desktop here and just click save. See, as soon as it is saved, the color of the import is changed, color of as is changed because these two are keywords. So whenever there are keywords, it will appears in the blue color. Okay. So and what is this? Adafruit underscore dht is the library name, and this dht is the alias name. Similarly, let's write one more. It is import time. See, time is a default library, no need to install externally. So adafruit underscore dht is the external library. That's why we have to install. But time is a internal package that is available with the Python 3. So whatever the version we are working with, inside the Python itself, this time library is available. So no need to install the library again. So we are importing time. Why? What is the use of time? Here time library is used to generate the delays. So yesterday we have written delay of 2000 microseconds, 2000 milliseconds, something like that. In the Arduino we have written some delay program. So similarly, to write the delay in the Raspberry Pi, we have to use time library. Okay, so let's write. Now, I want to define two variables like sensor type and sensor pin. So let me write here. What is sensor type here? Go to here. and sensor type is DHT.DHT11. What do you mean by this sensor type? DHT dot means the library. Here, this is the library. Ada fruit underscore DHT. Instead of writing all those things, we are writing DHT. And this DHT11 is a constant. So what do you mean by DHT11? So in the DHT sensor, there are two types of sensors available. In the DHT, there are two types of sensors available. One is DHT11 and there are DHT22. So what we are using in our kit is DHT11. So that's why I'm mentioning the type of the sensor what I'm using, because in the DHT different variations of the sensors are available. So in that, which variation you are using? So I'm using here DHT11. So I'm mentioning that sensor type equal to DHT.DHT11. Here you can observe that sensor type is a variable name. We are simply writing. We are not writing. See yesterday how we written int LED equal to 13. Are you remember yesterday's syntax? I have written that int LED equal to 13. What is that? LED is a variable name. We are assigning pin number 13 to the LED. But here also, this is a variable name. I'm assigning the type of the variable, type of the sensor to this variable. But here I'm not declaring anything because Python is dynamic type. Python is dynamic data types. Dynamic data types means as soon as we are assigning something to the variable, that variable is converted to that particular data types automatically. So we need not to mention the data type externally, like int, float, long, so something like that. We need not to mention any external data types. So let's take sensor pin. Can you tell me what is the data pin is connected to what part of the Raspberry Pi? Can anyone answer? Data pin is connected to which part of the, which pin of the Raspberry Pi?
GPIO 4.
Yes, it is GPIO 4. So let us take the pin number is 4. Okay, so this is a pin number. So here you have to change whenever you change your data pin. At what pin you connected your data pin in the Raspberry Pi, you have to give that pin number over here. So in my case, I connected the DHT11 to the pin number 4, GPIO number 4, not pin number 4. Pin number is again board mode. So pin number 4. So that's why I selected this as this one. So now let me write. I want to read the values continuously. So for reading the values continuously, I have to write while true. I'm just writing while true or a while one, or otherwise we can write, but don't we can't write high here. So either you have to write while true or while one. Okay, so either here we can write while true, otherwise we can write like this while one. We can write like this also. But again, see here, after the while loop, I started a colon symbol. So in the Python, all the like a if statement, while statement, all the control and loop statements, all the control and loop statements will be opened with a colon. So whenever you write a colon, and by pressing enter, just see if I remove this colon and I press enter, see where is the cursor here? Cursor is at the starting place. Now see this, I will place a colon over here and I'm pressing enter. Now where is the cursor? Cursor is here, not in the starting place. What is the meaning of this is while loop is opened with a 4 spaces. Otherwise we can call it as a tab space. Okay, here it is opened with a tab space. I think something is happening here. 1 minute. Okay. Oh. Okay, let us see. So right, I open a while loop over here. Now I want to read the values. How to read that values? I will write one statement here, humidity, comma, temperature equal to DHT dot read underscore retry. We are writing here DHT dot read underscore retry. So in this, what I have to write? The first parameter should be sensor type, which sensor type you are using, and second parameter should be sensor pin. See, I'm writing clearly here. There is a method called inside the DHT library. There is a function called read underscore retry. I don't know why it is. 1 minute. Let me disable this first. I think the pen is affecting here. Here is all on. Okay. Okay, I don't know why it is affecting over here. I'm getting all the scratches. Are you able to see the scratches?
Actually, I have a doubt. These can I ask now?
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, the sensor type and sensor pin is just a variable name. We can give any name, right? Or
Yeah, yeah, you can give any name. There is no specific like only I have to give something like that, like this only. You can give any name. Like I can give here just type. What is the type of the sensor? And okay, type is a keyword. We should not give. So, okay, we can write S type, sensor type, and
oh,
S pin, sensor pin. So like
okay,
that, we can give any name over here, and we can change the same names. We'll pass the same names over here.
okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Mm.
right. So let me resolve this after the break maybe. So let me complete this program, then we'll take a break, and after that we'll continue the remaining program. Okay. So I'm reading the two values, humidity and temperature over here, and then I'm getting this. So what is the syntax here is this method dht.read_retry will return two values. One value, first value will be humidity, and the second value is temperature. Again, these two are variable names only. You can give any names over here, humid, temp, so something like that. You can give any variable names over here. But here I'm giving some decent names like humidity and I'm sorry, I want to take temperature. It's not spelling mistake. Okay, you can give any name over here. Okay, that is not restricted. Only these are restricted because this is a library and this is a method. These we should not change. Why? Because this is a method inside the library called adafruit_dst. So let's print the values. Let's print the values. Print temperature equal to temperature equal to. So within the double quotes I can write like this, and I can append the variable. So this is a variable of which contains the temperature value. So I'm just appending the temperature value here by separating with comma. By separating with comma, I can append the value. Next, similarly, print. I'm writing here humidity equal to comma humidity. So this is the value. This is a string. This is the string. This is going to be appended with the value. Okay. Now that's it. That is finished, and I want to read the values after every 2 seconds. That is, we can call it as a sleep. So earlier we have written delay, and here we are writing time dot sleep. And here this is in seconds. Time dot sleep of 2 means 2 seconds. We are getting a 2 seconds delay. In a earlier Arduino, we have given in the milliseconds, 2000 milliseconds. 2000 milliseconds means again 2 seconds delay only. But here the parameter for time dot sleep is seconds only. So if we give 2000 means it will wait for up to 2000 seconds. So if we give 2 seconds means for every 2 seconds you will get the output. So let me save this and run the program. So it is a run symbol. So you are able to see this here, run symbol. So by clicking on that run symbol, we are able to run the program. I think here the window is open side by. I'm sorry. Yeah, here the window is opened. Yeah, see it is showing that temperature is 30 degrees, humidity is 72%. So this is a very simple way how we can read the information. Okay, so with this program, we will take a small break, and we'll come back and we'll continue the next programs. Okay, meanwhile, I think someone is disturbing because I'm not doing anything, but I'm getting all disturbance over here. Sir, can you anyone
Sir,
guide
we'll
me?
try to resolve this.
Okay, okay. Because,
During the break, we'll try to resolve.
okay, right. Thank you.
So we can have break for 10 minutes, sir?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. We can have a 10
Okay,
minutes
okay.
break and
So
we'll
we
come
can
back.
have break for 10 minutes, and I request everyone to join within 10 minutes so that you do not miss any of the step of this practical session.
Okay.
Also, I once again request participants to rejoin with their serial numbers. Please change your Zoom IDs with your serial numbers. Thank you so much.
Okay. Show the code, please. Okay, I will show it. I will share the screen and I will stop this. And this is the code.